Hello, this is Randy with Excel for Freelancers, and thank you for joining me today. In this week's video, we're going to show you how to send email with Excel without using Outlook. We're going to show you two different ways using both generic and Gmail options with both Zapier and within VBA itself. So let's get started. It's going to be a fantastic training. Alrighty, let's get started here. Today, basically, I have gone over emails in quite a few videos before, but we've often used Outlook as a means to send those emails. And I had a lot of requests to use either Gmail or a generic email to send out those emails and without Outlook. So today I wanted to take the opportunity to show you a few different methods of how we can do that. Without using Outlook. In fact, we've got two ways to send using SMTP, and we'll go over that. That is the protocol in which email can be sent. And we're going to also use our old friend Zapier, in which we can send out both SMTP and Gmail through Zapier as well. So let's get started with that. I've started out with just a basic template here. We have our email subject. And in the past videos, we've gone over how we've replaced first name with the actual first name as Excel moves down the table. And so we wanted to basically loop through the names and find out any emails that have not been sent and then sent. So if they're all sent, it won't send any. And if there's a blank space here, it's going to go ahead and send them. So that is what we want to do basically. And I want to basically personalize those emails within the subject and email message using first name. So when you see first name, it will be replaced by the person's actual first name. And when you see the pound last name, it will be replaced by the person's actual last name. Also, I do have an attachment, and in this particular video, in this case, our attachments are going to be public record, or they're going to be online or on a server, not on our computer. Because we are sending those attachments through the web, we want those links to be placed on the web. So this is a good idea if you want to send non-secretive or non-private information. And in this case, I've just got a picture here, so I'm going to show you how to do that. And in fact, this case, that picture can be found right here. It's just a picture, and so when you click this link, the picture is found. And so I've included that as an attachment, and you can too. If you're going to send files, make sure that this is a link on a server, something that can be accessed via a web browser. Okay, it's got to be able to be accessed through a web browser, just like this link can be. Okay, that is an important distinction there with these types of attachments, because we are sending it through the internet and we're not using an application based on our computers such as Outlook. Okay. There are four different methods that I'm going to show you today. Well, the first is send with SMTP, and that is basically the protocol that we're going to use to send emails, and this can be used any email. Just like my email here at Randy@Excel for Freelancers. That is a generic email with a private domain and then my name. So that email's been set up, and I'll show you how to send something like that, as well as a send with SMTP using Gmail. And I've got a Gmail account as well, so I'm going to show you how to do that. I've created four different macros so that you can use any which one you want. You probably would not use all of these. You would probably just use one of them. But I wanted to make sure that you had a chance to see and use all of them to see which one will work best for you. For my friends on a Mac computer, you will probably not want to use these first two. The code uses something called CDO, and that is not very common in a Mac. And although there are some workarounds, so if you're on a Mac, you'll probably be more inclined to use Zapier integration. Okay, so that might be helpful for you. The third one is we're going to go with Zapier for SMTP, which is the generic email to use with Zapier. And then we're going to show you how to go through and use Zapier using Gmail. And this allows us to send emails from any particular account we want and do it relatively fast. And so let's get started. We're going to start with the VBA code, and you can access your VBA code from the Developers tab into the Visual Basic. If you do not see the Developers tab, go ahead and click File. All right, and under Options, you will want to locate the Customize ribbon and then make sure your Developers tab is selected here. You can also access VBA through a shortcut, Alt F11, and we'll go ahead and go into that now. And you'll see here we have on-sheet macros. We don't need that. Okay, so we have no macros on the sheet. We're just focused primarily on, we don't need this sheet as well, so I'll go ahead and remove that. And so basically we're focused on just the send emails sheet here and the 4 macros that are associated with that. 2 of which are going to be focused on SMTP, and 2 of which are going to be focused on Zapier. All right, so let's go ahead and go through the SMTP. This should be TP. Let me go ahead and change that. TP. Okay, and don't forget to change to please rename all your macros using the properties. If you don't see this window open here, make sure you click the properties here. Also F4 will get that to you, and make sure you name your macros. Okay, when you have a lot of modules, you want to name your module. Macros are named up here. So make sure you can differentiate between those two. When adding a new module, okay, you'll have a generic name like module 1. So at that point, you'll want to rename it here, okay? So that's very important. This way you can differentiate between them. So I wanted to go ahead and show you that. We can remove that, rename, and we do not want to save it. So we'll go ahead and click No. Into our first macro. And this is going to be send with SMTP and then general or generic. And this means we can use it for any type of email. And I put a note here that works on Windows, not Mac, because CDO, which is what we're using, collaboration data objects, works primarily with Windows machines. So if you are on a Mac, you'll want to go ahead and use the Zapier, which we'll go over in a moment. The first thing we're going to do is dimension an email message and the email configuration as objects. And this is going to be called late bindings. If for some reason you want to use early binding or you're getting an error, you may need to add in a reference. And I'll go ahead and show that to you under the tools. Okay, references. Now I have not added it in. I have not needed to, but you may need it. Okay, take a look here under Microsoft CDO for Windows. You may have to select this in order to reference the libraries if you do get a system error. I'm going to keep it unselected because it works just fine without it for me. But depending upon the system and the configuration that you have, you may have to select this to pull the libraries in. It depends on your version, okay? So I wanted to show you that. We've defined those as objects, and then here we've set the email message here as the create objects. This will create our message, and basically CDO is a collaboration data objects, and that's something that Microsoft has given us in one of their libraries. And then what we do is we want to create the configuration. This helps us configure our email so it knows how to send it, where to send it. And to use what protocol so that we can get it to the right people. And then the email is the one that defines the subject, the message. So when we go through the email, we're going to use this configuration that we'll set above, and then we just go to the CC, the BC, so we have all the information. So basically, once again, we have 2. The email message is all the details about your specific email, and the email configuration helps us determine what our settings are and whether it's an SMTP settings, whether we're going to be using what protocol or what security or authentication, and that's all the details right in here, okay? And one of the things that I don't love about this is the fact that we do have to store a password somewhere, and I'm not a really big fan of that. So if I had a choice, I'd go with Zapier. personally. I don't like storing passwords in workbooks. If the workbook's only for you and your workbook is secured, then it's fine. But if it's something that you're going to be dispersing out, I don't recommend it. I've put my password temporarily in B30. Of course, that will be removed by the time you get the workbook, unless I forget, and then I'm going to have big problems. So let's hope I don't forget. So basically what we've done is we've taken the email configuration and then we've set it. This is setting the source defaults for our email configuration. And we've also just set our defaults for the email fields. And basically when you have it, we're going to send using authentication 2. You can set that up. Now this is what you're going to have to find. If you're using Gmail, or especially if you're using another one, you have your own distinct SMTP settings. My host is 1-in-1. Okay. If it were Gmail, I'd use Gmail. Okay. So depending upon who's hosting, you'll want to get this SMTP setting. Every host has a different one, so you'll not make sure. And they will also tell you about these settings. We're going to use 587, sometimes it's 25, and this is a port. And the port often depends upon the security settings. We're going to use authentication here. So the port, usually they will tell you what port to use, okay? So they'll give you those details. You might have to check with your hosting company on these settings. We're going to authenticate it. We do want authenticate in here. And this is a SSL. If you're using it, it would be true, but I've commented it out. For my configuration, we do not need it. We're going to send, doing the username, we can send just the email address, what username. This is how we log, this is how the CDO logs into your account, and then they use this password. So here is your username, okay, and here's your password, okay, mine's stored in B30. So, and then we're going to update it. So that's all we have to do. And the next part of it is basically what we're going to do is we need to define the details of the email. So here I've defined subject into F3, the message into F4. And if you remember on our sheet, our subject is F3. Our message is in F4, and our attachment is in F11. Okay, so now what we've done is we've defined our subject, we've defined our message, and we defined our attachment. Those are all strings. And now what I want to do is I want to go through each row of the table, but first I want to know how many rows. So we define the last row. We need to get that last row. Tables can grow, so we want to make sure that we keep that as a dynamic number into a variable. In this case, our last row is 28. However, depending upon your table, it will be different. And as you add to the table, so you definitely do not want to have this as a fixed number unless your table will never change, which is fine. So now we need to loop through the table. I want to go through each name. And I want to pull the first name, I want to pull the last name, and I want to get the email addresses. These are the important things that I want. I want their first name because I want to personalize this email. And I want their email address because I need to know who to send it to. So for the contact row, we're going to loop through. It starts at 14 and goes to the last row. So it's going to repeat this. All of this is going to loop. This is my loop. It goes from 14 and it goes back and back and back until we get to the end. Now we do have some conditions. Our conditions are, I don't want to send an email if it's been sent already. So I want to check if this L, and the contact row is not blank, I want it skipped. We want it skipped. So here we can use the go to command, and I'll show you that's really powerful. It basically allows us to skip lots of code. So if L and the contact value does not equal empty, right, then go to next row. Next row is something that you can define. You can create anything you want. You know, you can write anything you want, but it has to be also here. So next row is right here, okay? Next row. Don't confuse that with next contact row. This is part of our loop. For contact row, next contact row. That's our loop, okay? This is our go-to, next row. So we basically, I'm saying, if the contact is not empty, I want you to skip all this and I want you to go right here, right above that next, so that it loops through. And that's the reason I've got the next row right above there. So then we're going to go through each row, assuming that L in the contact row is empty. Then I want to define the last name, which is E in the contact row. I want to define the first name, F, and I want to define the email under K. And then what I want to do is I want to customize the subject. I want to remove, basically what I want to do is I want to remove anywhere it says first name in the subject or anywhere it says last name in the subject, and I want to replace these characters with the actual first name. And I want to replace this with the actual first name, and I want to replace this with the actual last name. Okay, so it's just basically find and replace. And that's what we're going to do with this line of code. We have 3 different types of fields. Let me clear out of that. All right. We have 3 different types of fields. First name, last name, okay? And sorry, just two. So we're going to only replace the first name and the last name. 2 different variables. First name and last name. So this is what your starting point is. Our starting point is here. Okay? And then we're going to replace the first name with the actual first name. We're going to replace this last name pound with the actual last name. We're going to do that for both the subject and the message. So now we've got our customized subject and we've got our customized message. So we are ready to send the email. So here with the email message, remember we've set that up here. We're going to set the 2 as the email. We won't be using any CC or BC, but you can use that. So I've left them here. From, you'll want to customize this. Who's it from? Okay, in this case, I'm just going to use mine. The subject. And then what this is saying, attachments. If the attachment is not empty, remember we've defined it here, right here under F11, saying basically if F11 is not empty, that means we do, then add attachment. And what do we want to add? We want to add this whole link. Okay, basically it's got to be a link. It can't be a real attachment from your computer in this case. In Outlook, we can use a real attachment from our computer, which will attach it. But in this, remember, this needs to be a link that can be found by a browser. Okay. We're going to send the text message, the text body as the message, and then we're going to send it with this line of code. And that's easy. And the reason I've also created a sent counter, because I want to know how many emails were sent. So what I want to do is for each email that was sent, this increases by 1. Starts at 0, and so the sent counter is going to increase by 1. And the reason for that is once we get done with all of the loops and we do all of our cleanups here, just making sure that nothing is set, we don't need this, get rid of that. The message box sent counter equals emails. So this is going to create a pop-up message saying the sent counter, so this will be replaced with an actual number. Emails have been sent. So let's go ahead and give that a try with the SMTP back into our thing. And we'll go ahead and click here. We're set up with this email and it's going to loop through, but it's only going to send 1 because this is the only field which has no value in the email sent. All right, now we can go ahead and test it out. Clicking on the send with SMTP general, and we'll wait just a moment while that email gets sent. And then we do get our message saying 1 emails have been sent, so that was helpful. And now we'll go ahead and go into my Outlook, which is where I track my emails, and then we'll go ahead and take a look at that email right here. Okay, into the Outlook, send and receive, and we'll go ahead and see how that email looks as it comes in. All right, here it is. And let's go ahead and open it up. I'll make it a little smaller so you can see it. All right, here we have Hi Frank Fretters replaced with the last name. You see here's our first name that got automatically replaced. And then we have our picture here. Okay, so that worked out nicely. And our message here. So everything is working great, just as we had. The text is all there. And the email and the from is all set. So that's nice. Okay, so that's working out well. Let's go ahead into the next option, and that's going to be send with SMTP using Gmail. And in that macro, there's only going to be a few slight changes. And in this particular one, what we're going to do is all I've done is replace this as almost the same macro, except that I've replaced this with the Gmail information 465, and that information can be found on Gmail. Let's go ahead and take a look at that so we know where that's found. Into Gmail, if you want to check yours, under the settings here in Gmail, and then I believe we have forwarding and pop. Okay, the details are here, and then we can look under the configuration instructions. That'll open up a tab, and here we see our outgoing mail server settings. Okay, so we have that smtp.gmail.com, that's important, SSL, TLS if required, and we're going to use the 465 port, right? And then we do want authentication. So these settings are helpful, and that's what helps us set our settings here. So 465, SSL, true, we're going to use that. Okay, and authentication is also true. I have my Gmail address here, and my password is stored here as well. So that's pretty much it. Okay, it's relatively the same information here. Everything else is the same. So let's go ahead and take a look at that, and we'll go ahead and send that out. Back into Excel we go. I'm just going to clear this one out because otherwise nothing will send. I'm going to click send with Gmail. Let me make sure that macro is assigned properly. Let's go ahead and click there. And SMTP Gmail is what we want to do. Click on here, let it go over, submit it, and we'll get that pop-up message saying that it has been sent. Great. Okay, let's go ahead back. Let's go into the web browser this time. I want to show you how that looks like in Gmail, because you're not going to be using Outlook. So let's go ahead and look at that. And now, nothing's going to come in my inbox, but our sent email, that's going to show, and that's this one right here. It's now 3:57. I have a few tests. So here is the mail I just sent. Okay, here's the picture. That worked out well. Again, all the same information. So here it is automatically in my Gmail sent. So that's really helpful because you have a record of what was sent, and so that's really, really important, and so you'll get that as well. So I wanted to show you that also, and it'll come into my Outlook as well. But so when you send using SMTP, it will show as sent in your Gmail. So I wanted you to know that as well. All right, so that's how we use the two ways for SMTP, either with a generic or general email, and with SMTP using Gmail. Just those settings are different. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go into Zapier, especially for Mac users who will want this to use this, or another reason is because you don't like storing your password in your workbook. Maybe you're going to give this out to coworkers. So Zapier stores all that on their servers, and that's a little bit more more secure. So I do prefer that as well. And if you're not familiar with Zapier, we're going to go a little quickly because we have covered this in multiple videos before, and I'll include links to those videos as well so you can get a hang of it. But in essence, Zapier is a amazing app. It's free if you have just 5 or less zaps, they call them. And it allows us to connect multiple applications to other multiple applications using what they call as triggers. And so you can see there's just literally hundreds, if not thousands, of integrations here. For our purposes, and usually with Excel, we're always going to start off with something called a web hook. And we've used this in the past. And that basically allows us to get information from Excel and send it to somewhere. So we're going to start off with a webhook. Okay, so it's called webhook. Okay, you can search for it in here, and webhooks. And here it is, right here. Okay, so webhooks allows us. So we're going to create a zap right here. Alrighty, and what we're going to do is we're going to first search for webhooks because that's what we're going to start out under. And we want to hook basically information in Excel and send it to somewhere else. And we're going to catch a hook. Okay, we always want to catch a hook for our purposes here. And then what we'll do is we're going to skip this pick off a child key. We won't be needing that. And next we're going to be given a hook. And in my account, I'm always going to use this number. In your account, you're going to have a specific account number for Zapier after you sign up. However, what follows that is going to be different for every hook. Now, I've already got this whole link copied and pasted. So what I want is I only want this unique identifier for this specific hook. So I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to go back in, and we're going to start off with, let's go with Zapier SMTP. We'll do the Gmail in just a moment. So what I'm going to do is I've already got this configured out, but what I want to do is I want to find the place in that link that is specific for this particular webhook, and I'm going to replace that. Okay. Now I have that specific link already set up, and I'm going to run this macro right now, and just going to click F5 or run. Okay, and 0 emails have been sent out. Let's go ahead and clear that out, so at least 1 gets sent, so that we can trigger this, and we can click here. All right, now 1 email has been sent out. The reason is I want to trigger this Zapier because I want to tell it, hey, there's some information. So it says, okay, I did this. Basically, it says, test your webhook. So we just sent it, right? We just sent it. We just did that step. And now we're going to say, okay, I did this. Now it's looking for it, and now it found it. Let's go ahead and see what it found. View your hook. Query string, and I'll go over these details. This is our attachment. This is our subject. This is our message. And this is the email address that we're sending it to. So we've got 4 components to this hook. 4, and I'll go over those in the details. So, but we just want to set this hook up now. So we're going to continue that so everything looks right. And now we're going to say, well, what do we want to do with it? What do we want? Now we've got the information. Where do we want to send it? And I'm going to show you 2 different ways. The first of which is going to be just a generic SMTP setting. This is Zapier integration using that. And we're going to send emails in plain text. That's fine. Save and continue. Now we're going to set up an SM. We're going to connect an account. So I've got multiple accounts here. Let's go ahead and send up one. Now the host, this is that SMTP that we were using before. Okay, that's oneand1.com. Yours is going to be different depending upon your host. Generally, most hosts start off with this, and then here is their hosting details. If it were Gmail, we do Gmail. Your host will have something different. Mine is oneand1. Okay. The next is your logon credentials. For me, it's my email. For freelancers. Okay, I'll skip the password for just a moment, and I'm going to use TLS, and then this is going to be 587. For me, it's 587, and the from email is going to be the same as my login email, so we're going to keep that the same. And I'll go ahead and put in that password for the email. And then yes, continue, and that's going to let us connect to that account, and it's been connected. And now we're just going to test it and make sure everything works right. Okay, we have a success. So now we've got the webhook, and now we've connected the account. So let's save and continue this. And now what we're going to do is we're going to set up the components of that. From, who do we want to send this from? Let's close this. We don't need that. Let's go ahead and now we can select here, what do you want? We can display a specific name. Now our query doesn't necessarily contain a from, so I can put any from email address or any from name. Let's go ahead and Randy Austin, okay? And let's go ahead and put in my from email address. Let's go ahead and put in my Gmail address just so we have a different email address. We can put in the same one, that's fine. And now we are going to keep that the same as the reply address, that's fine. The to, okay, that's going to be part of our, now the information that came from our hook, remember there was 4 components that came from the hook. So we have the email address, we have the subject, the message, and the attachment. So what I want to do is we're going to send to. Who do we want to send it to? The email address. Now I know it's confusing, Randy Excel for freelancers, it's the same all over, but remember your to, right, it came from here, right? So if I were to change this to Gmail, right, then it would be different. Okay, so you understand that's why it's the same. I probably should. Okay, so it's coming from there. That's where the to is coming from. So we don't have a CC, we don't have a BC, we do have a subject, so let's go ahead and put that in, click here, and just click on subject, and then we also have a body, and that is our message, so Click on there. So now we've sent, and we do also have an attachment in this case. Now, if you were going to send the same attachment to every person, you could theoretically just paste the link right in here. You can paste the link right in here. But because ours is coming from Excel and we may want to change it at times, we're going to pull it right from here. Here's our attachment. Okay, that's good. We are set. Now we can continue. The next step is basically just to look it over from email, reply to, this will be different, generally. We have our subject, we have our body, and we have our attachment. So we are good. Now we're going to send test to the email just to make sure everything checks out. Good. Great. We are done. Okay, we're going to finish. It's going to ask us for a name. Let's just call it Excel to email. Let's just say SMTP. Okay, and the last step, very important, turn it on. Okay, we need to turn that Zap on for it to actually work. All right, and we can go ahead and click on Make Another Zap and go down. And now we can send here. Just click on that and click Send. And let me remove that date there, otherwise nothing's going to send. Okay, there we go. One email has been sent. And now we're using it through Zapier. Let's go ahead and go over that code here. And this is the basic code that we use. And we're going to use the same information, the subject, the attachments. We're going to use the same loop. Okay. We're going to define basically the same. We're also going to replace the same field. So really nothing has changed. The only change is we're going to change just these 5 lines of code here. With Zapier, we're going to use something called a object URL. So we're going to send a JSON file. And we did go over that in great detail. But basically what we've done is we've taken the last name, the first name, the email, the subject, the message, and we've embedded them, those 4. Remember, we had 4 parts of that hook. 4 parts. So we have 4 parts to this link here. We have email address, which is our email. We have subject, okay, which is our subject. We have message, okay, and we have attachments. So these are the 4 parts. So when you send those are the results. That's the result of our part. So that is how we get with this URL, that's how we get the information directly into Zapier. And once it's in Zapier, we can send it pretty much anywhere. And in this case, we're using their SMTP values to send an email. And then the rest of this is we're just going to patch. What do we want to do? We're going to open it, and then we're going to send it and request. So basically, these are just things that you need to copy and paste. It's not so important unless you really want to get into JSON and how these details work. But for our purposes, we don't need to get into too much detail of how this is working. One opens it, one requests, and one sends it. And then we're going to set our counter so we can count the emails. And so that everything else is the same as we've done in the other macros. And the result of that, let's go ahead and pull that up, is this email here. We've sent 2 of them. It's the same email as we've done in the past, same message, same everything. Okay. All right, so we know that that is successful. Let me just go ahead and delete these so that we are clear on the inbox, so when we retest, we know it's a new email. All right, good. That is good. The next up is Gmail, Zapier with Gmail. And actually, there's nothing different in this macro except this part is going to be different. Everything else is identical. So we're not going to go into this macro too much, except when I create a new webhook, I'm going to replace this. So let's do that right now and go through Gmail. This is going to be Zapier through Gmail. So we're going to choose a trigger, right? We're going to do the same thing. We're going to create a webhook trigger, okay? And we're going to catch a hook just like we did before. We are going to skip this step. We don't need that. And then we're going to copy and paste this unique identifier right here. This is the important one. We're going to take that and we're going to paste it right here. Okay. So we make sure we have that. This is our Gmail. Remember, Zapier Gmail, right? This is a different, although it looks exactly the same, this is a different macro. That's all we need to do in this particular one as far as the code is concerned. So Back into Zapier we go, and let's continue. Oh, let me run that macro first. So let's go back into, let's delete this. Let's go ahead and run that. I've already assigned that macro here to this button here. So we'll go ahead and run it. And one email has been sent. The reason we want to run that macro is we want to send that information before we create the hook so that everything is in there. Remember, it says, we've generated a custom webhook. Test your webhook. So we need to send it before we go to the next step. It says, yes, we did it. So now it's going to look for that information, and it's found it. I'm going to view the webhook. Nothing's changed except I did update the email address, remember? So that's good. So we are good on that. Let's continue that. And now what do we want to do? Now in this case, I'm going to use Gmail's integration right away. We can go directly. If you're using Gmail, you can do this too. Okay, it gives you, there's a few more options. So we're going to use Gmail in this case. And we're going to send an email. We do have other options. We can create a draft, which is interesting. We can also find an email. I'll have to look and see how that works. It's kind of interesting. Finds an email message optionally and creates one if none are found. Interesting. Okay, so send an email. We're going to do that. Let's save and continue. Now, just like the other one, we have more options. But first, we need to connect our Gmail account. So we'll go ahead and do that now. I'll select the account that I want to continue, and we're just going to set the allowing permissions, and we're good to go. Run the test. Okay, we're successful. Let's save and continue. Right, so just as in the other one, SMTP, we have fields here. We have a few more in Gmail. So here's the fields that we may or may not want to fill out. Some are required. Let's go ahead and put in a to field. Who are we going to send this email to? We know this on our hook, and that is going to be our email address here. This is the person sending. Remember, although this is my Gmail, yours is going to be very different. So that's who we're going to send it to. We could have a CC if you wanted to send it to yourself. You could also just simply write in an email address right here so that everything you send gets automatically sent to another, right? So you could do that, just like I've done here. So you could theoretically not just copy and paste another email address so that you automatically get copied, or BCC if you don't want other people to see. So that way you know everything you sent out, you would get a copy. You could do that here as well. For our purposes, we will not do it. Randy here, let's go ahead and send who we're going to from it. So let's go say it's going to come from my Gmail account. Okay, and can set my name here. And who we're going to reply to, we can specify a single reply address other than your own, so we don't need to do that. We're going to be using ours. And we do have a subject here, so let's connect our subject under subject here. And also we have the body type is plain. We could do HTML. There's a way to do that as well. In the body is also what we have as a message, so let's connect our message here. And you can set a mailbox, which is kind of nice. If you wanted to specify certain mailboxes for these types of emails, you could set it. It's already connected to your Gmail, so it connects to all your current Gmail mailbox. And we do have an attachment as well. So let's go ahead and set that with our query string attachment, and then we'll continue. So here's the review. All right, everything looks good. And now we're going to send a test to Gmail. Make sure that it gets it, and then finish. Name our Zap. Okay, let's call it Excel to Gmail. Okay, and then don't forget to turn it on. Okay, and now we're good. Now back into the Gmail we go, into our sent, and let's go ahead and run that test and see if we can get that email showing up. Here it is. Let's go ahead and let's change the name to, I don't want a Gmail again, and Excel for business. Okay, there we go. Let's go ahead and change it. Now we're going to go send with Gmail using Zapier. And we'll go ahead and click send. One email has been sent. Let's go ahead and into the Gmail account itself so we can check there. And we'll go ahead and into the sent email. And here it is right here. Here's the new one. Okay. Yeah, that is good. It's all set up there. Good. All right. We are set. Let's go ahead and that is on the sent. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the receive. It's not that one. Let's go ahead and click. I believe it's a new one. This is an older one, which is just sent. Okay, here's the new one. So this is good. So this is, and then another one. Okay, so here we go. This is the one that just came in that we set up. Randy at Excel for Business. So that's already set up. Okay, so it's working great. And in Gmail, it's also here too. Excellent. Okay, so we're all set up. So now, just for review, we have created 4 different types of emails, two using Zapier, 2 using SMTP, both using Gmail. And so you've got a great start to sending emails without Outlook. So I hope that was helpful. Thanks so much for joining me today. I look forward to your comments, your shares, and I appreciate everything. Thanks so much.